How would you like to produce fresh, organic eggs and produce in your own backyard with very little work?
Hi, I'm Jonathan.
And Kylene Jones, and we are the Provident Preppers.
In this video, we are going to talk about some basic design principles that will allow you to grow fruit trees and chickens in harmony with each other to produce a great harvest for you and your family. You don't want to miss this. We want to share with you an exciting idea for creating your own survival food forest in your backyard. This is based on our post, How to Create a Survival Food Forest in Your Own Backyard. We hope that you'll look at that. We want to emphasize right up front here that this project we're talking about is very scalable. We happen to have a fairly large area that we can use, but some people do not have that luxury. Some people have a fairly small area, but we want you to know that this is very scalable, so you can make it big or small, just depending on your circumstance.
So how would you like to produce fresh organic eggs, fruits, and herbs in your own backyard with very little work? A lot of times we are really put off by producing our own fruits and vegetables because gardening is so much work. And we've designed a system for our yard that it's amazing how much less work it takes because of the design. And we're going to teach you how to do that today. We call this our backyard survival food forest. And like Jonathan said earlier, you can do this on a quarter-acre lot or you can do this on 5 acres. It's all about the design. So the method that we're going to teach you today is our backyard survival food forest. And we have been doing this for many years. We had 1/3 of an acre before where we were growing a lot of our own fruits and vegetables, and we had some chickens, but it was taking a tremendous amount of work to be able to get that return. And over time, and through study and through experimentation, we've come up with a plan that works really well for us, that can work for you in your backyard, whether you have 1/4 of an acre or 5 acres. It's the principle that matters. The design on the left takes lots of human labor because those chickens do nothing but give you eggs. Our chickens on the right live an incredibly happy life, but they are hard workers. They till the soil, they fertilize the plants, they control the insects, they reduce the weeds, they consume all of the excess produce or turn it into compost, and they facilitate compost production as we take all of our garden waste and weeds and dump them into this fenced orchard, and they either eat it or turn it into compost. It's a fantastic process. When you're designing your food forest, we're going to do 5 steps: observation, stacking functions, incorporating forest layers, including chicken-friendly tree guilds, and sustainability. Let's talk about those. Observation. The first thing you need to do is take some time to just sit. Go into your backyard or your front yard or both and really pay attention and take notes of what happens in your yard. Where's your sunshine? What happens as the path of that sun goes over your yard for the day? When it rains, where does the water naturally flow? Is there a way that you can capture the water and keep it from flowing out of your yard so that you can use it to water your plants naturally? Just really take some time and look at what you have to work with. Then stacking functions. We talked a little bit about all those things that our chickens do. So in good permaculture design, every element will perform more than one function. We talked about our chickens. Our chickens don't just give us eggs and meat. Our chickens fertilize the plants, till the soil, control the insects, they reduce the weeds, they consume the produce. It's amazing all the different things. These chickens are our little workers, and they do a fabulous job saving us a tremendous amount of time and energy. I never weed my orchard. Forest layers. If you think about a forest has all kinds of different layers. They've got the really tall trees and the medium-sized trees, the shrubs, the ground covers, and the vines. It's really important in a forest that no ground is left barren. And that's one of the important parts of design. Now, a really good way to design a forest is in guilds. When you think about a guild, it's like companion planting. So you're going to take plants that work really well together, and using those different forest layers, you're going to create a little community that helps each other thrive. When we are designing the guilds, we're going to design ones that are chicken friendly. Let me tell you a little bit about this guild that you are looking at. Now, a guild can be round, it can be long, it can be any shape you want it to be. They just need to be planted in close proximity. We needed some type of a hedge or barrier next to an outside fence. And we decided to plant a row of apple trees. And that is the foundation of our guild. So the first apple tree you see here actually ripens in August. And then those trees consecutively go down the row until the last one, which ripens in November. What we've done is created a food source that has extended throughout the season and will give us 4 months worth of fresh apples, including the ability to store them for the winter. And then around these trees, we planted different plants like the comfrey and the medicinal herbs that you see, everything that will work together for the health of these trees. On the outside of that fence to the right, you might not be able to see it, but on the outside, we've planted other plants and bushes that are going to grow up and contribute to this. All of this works as a really nice hedge for privacy, as well as a wind barrier for the garden that is to the left of that. So that's an example of a guild. It can look any way you want it to look. When you're selecting your plants for a guild, you want to really think about these things. First, the guild should contain food for people. We are talking about building a survival forest that will be able to feed your family every day, as well as if life gets really tough with very little work. So we want first food for people. Second, we want food for the chickens because we want the chickens to be healthy even without giving them supplementary grain so that we can sustain the people in times of survival. Nitrogen fixing plants. These are great plants that will take atmospheric nitrogen and fix them into the soil. Nutrient accumulators. Comfrey is a great example of that. That comfrey plant will grow like crazy, produces lots of biomass, and you cut it down and mulch with it, and it creates this amazing soil. You want plants that are going to attract the pollinators. We want to plant insectivorous plants which will attract predatory insects for natural pest control. So this is an example of ideas that you might want to put in your fruit tree guild. There are a lot more than are listed here, and you don't have to have all of these. I would encourage you to have something from each category, but you don't have to have them all. And these are just some ideas. As far as the forest floor, red clover and white Dutch clover are fantastic ground covers. Their roots go very deep. They don't take much water once they're established, and they're a great chicken fodder. The chickens love to eat them, but it's very difficult for the chickens to decimate them. In everything that you do with a food forest, you need to think about sustainability. You want this to work on its own. In our food forest, what we have to do to make it work well is we have to prune, we have to thin, we have to harvest. That's pretty much the extent. We don't spray our trees, and even because of the chickens, we don't have to fertilize them. The chickens take care of that. So we want to make sure that your food forest is sustainable. Keep that in mind. It is important that they have boundaries and that they are kept contained so that they don't damage other places on our property. So start with a really good fence. This was just when our food forest, we were just planting it, we were just designing it. And so this is the baby, but make sure you get that foundation, and a fence is really important.
Let's talk just a minute about the chicken coop. That's my area. And you can see this is our little Taj Mahal. We had a few brick left over from when we built our house, and so they got a brick front, which makes it look pretty classy. We repurposed some old windows and an old commercial door, and there's an important purpose for those. As you can probably guess, it's for solar radiation. This is the south side, and so you can see that in the wintertime they get a lot of sunshine coming in there. The window is obviously openable so we can ventilate, let fresh air in there, but it works really, really well. On the inside, you can see the mass walls. One there in front of the door, one in front of the window, and these are just cinder block walls that absorb that natural energy that comes in. And this comes in from about probably September through April or May. We have energy coming in here and absorbing, and that's when we want that energy to come in, and that extra heat to help moderate the temperature. But it does a really good job, and you can see some of the artwork there. Our little girls, when we built this, they were about 8, and they were sad that the chickens
room was not quite as nice as theirs. And so we allowed them to bring some paint out, and this is all their artwork. They livened it up so that the chickens could have a happier life.
Now we have very happy chickens because they have happy faces all over the chicken coop.
Ventilation is very important, especially in the wintertime. In the summertime, it's not such a big deal, but in the winter, they need that fresh air. And in the winter, it's closed up more and they spend more time inside. So obviously, there's more droppings in there. It gets wetter in there. So the ventilation just helps to manage that moisture so that they don't have problems. The chickens are very hardy. Through the winter, they, on many days, will go out and spend time outside, but they're very hardy, so it's more important that they have the fresh air through the ventilation. The egg collection started out as just gathering the eggs out of the boxes, out of those nesting boxes.
But I hated that because I'd go in and I'm stepping on droppings and I'd have to fight the rooster. It was not sustainable.
So we decided to make a change. And with a little modification, we sloped the boxes to the back, and then on the right-hand side there, you can see the back side of the boxes there. We have a little closet there where we keep shovels and other garden supplies, and we just had those eggs roll into there, and that has worked really, really well. This is the north wall, and they just have free access to go out into the food forest anytime, winter or summer. They can go out, and it just expands their world. It helps us and it helps them.
One of the great things about having chickens that are able to free range is that they like to spend their time outside, which means that we only have to clean out that coop about once a year. It just stays so much cleaner because you don't have a lot of birds in there making a mess. They'd much prefer to be out here. It also significantly reduces our food bill because we don't need to feed them as much grain. They have lots of fresh bugs and produce and things to eat out here that make them very happy. It is really important that you start today. A survival food forest in your own backyard is an incredible asset. To be able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables and eggs for your family, that is worth so much. It will go a long way in supplementing your long-term food supply. You don't have to have a lot of space, but you've got to get those trees, especially in the ground, so that they can start growing. If you already have trees growing in your backyard, fantastic. They don't even have to be trees that bear fruit, but just a tree can be a great asset, and you can build your guild around the tree that you already have there, and you can develop this. It takes a lot of time. This picture was from maybe 7 years ago when our land was we were just working so hard to try and build fertility and make this a great sustainable place for us to live, to build our ark. That's what we like to call it.
Right. The
whole time we're trying to do things that they may take a long time and a lot of work to set up initially, but they're very, very sustainable. They take very little work to sustain. For instance, if you look at that raspberry patch that's in front of the orchard where the chickens are, we've taken these big concrete chunks that were trash to somebody else. We have made pathways with them between the rows of the raspberries. That makes it so that the raspberries don't grow up in between them. There's no need to till between these raspberries. There's less weeds in the aisle. I'm not walking in muddy paths when I'm walking between the raspberries, and these are all fed with drip. It is a great sustainable system. Yes, it took more work to create initially, but the payoff is huge. Plant your trees today. Worry about making the chicken coop later. Design where you're going to make it in your mind. You're going to go observe, right? And you're going to, in your mind and on paper, you're going to draw out what the final product's going to look like. But start with your trees today. Then when you can afford it, take the next step and take the next step and make steady progress to getting your goal and to building this beautiful food forest that will be such a blessing in your life every day, as well as when challenges in life come your way.
Here again are some resources we would encourage you to look at. The first is the post upon which this video was made, how to create a survival food forest in your own backyard. And as a companion to that, we encourage you to look at long-term food storage, creative solutions to build a critical asset. Now these two work hand in hand together. You want both of these pieces because the long-term food storage provides that base stability, but it doesn't provide enough nutrients. The food forest then provides the additional nutrients that help make both of these work. So we encourage you to look at both of these. These will be in the show notes, so we encourage you to take a look.
You can build a survival food forest in your very own backyard, regardless of what size it is. We have discovered with these basic principles that we were able to accomplish something we only imagined possible.
And now for the questions of the day. Have you ever grown a food forest? What ideas can you share with others? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.